Hello and welcome to another segment of Clarifying Christianity. You're joined by me here, Jono.
And me here, Barrick. Here we have three goals in Clarifying Christianity. The first is to respond. The second is equip. And the third is encourage. Jono, what do those mean?
Well, to respond to conversations and topics that are ongoing, and we want to just equip you to have those conversations with us. We're not ever going to just check the box and finish the conversation. It's ongoing. But ultimately, to encourage you, because if we're not encouraging you just to love Jesus more, then it doesn't matter how much more we know or what kind of conversations we can have. We want to, as Scripture says, spur one another on towards love and good deeds. So that's our goal. We're going to talk today about a phrase which is "Do unto thine own self be true," aka Old English version of
You do you. Yeah, I've heard this one a lot.
Oh my gosh, all the time.
A lot, like all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
And it very much is a part of kind of our culture. It's like very embedded in our culture right now. So I think it's important to understand this is not true everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
This is true for us in 2020 in the U.S. This is a phrase that gets thrown around.
Yeah, and I think that this one, John and I don't really have a great answer to this one. We really, normally we just try to respond. I don't even know if we have a great response. We're just going to talk about what we know about this one, and hopefully there's some truth that sticks out to you, that sits with you, and you can think about and maybe discuss this one further.
Yeah, so we decide there are kind of two ways that the phrase gets used, internally and externally, personally and then in relationship to other people. Yeah. So I'll go ahead and start with just like the internal application, which is this phrase gets used a lot as a write-off to do whatever you want, whenever you want to do it, to whoever, for whatever reason. And that can get you in a lot of trouble, actually. See, we actually need guidelines and guardrails in our lives. It's kind of disastrous. And honestly, we can believe the phrase and still see it hurt us over and over and over again, but still think it's true. And so what it kind of perpetuates very, very, very generally is either prideful things in us, which we're already really prideful. So if we don't keep pride in check, but rather we give it a long leash and we just say, hey, you do you, then our pride can run rampant and destroy a lot of people. C.S. Lewis even says pride is like the end-all be-all of sins. At the root of every sin is pride. And so if you're looking to not mess up your life or anybody else's for whatever reason, you want to keep pride in check. And you do you can let pride run loose. Apathy is kind of the other internal outcome of this, that you can just become apathetic to standards. And standards aren't always good, but sometimes they are. You can become apathetic to other people, to considerations of other people, and to wisdom from other people. So
yeah, and on the other end of the spectrum, that one is more like I can do whatever I want, basically. I can do me. And the other end of the spectrum is where how I've often used this phrase is where I'd say it to another person, like, "Hey, you do you, man. I'm gonna just do me. You do you." And it's basically saying that I won't judge you for what you are doing, which at some level I think that's kind of okay, because here's the deal. Jesus didn't ask us to judge everyone. In fact, he said love everyone, right, Jono?
Right.
Yes. Yeah, he said love everybody. And so me condemning someone for what they're doing, especially if they're not following Jesus, isn't exactly what Jesus asked me to do. But on the other hand, especially with people that I have a relationship with who are trying to follow Jesus, with them I might have a responsibility to actually not say, hey, you do you. I actually want them, especially other fellow Christians trying to follow Jesus, if they're not doing something that looks like Jesus, I think it might be more loving for me to point that out to them. And actually there's a verse about this, because us doing whatever we want is actually not the Jesus way. What is the Jesus way?
The Jesus way, he says this multiple times in multiple ways to his disciples all the time.
Yes.
He says in Matthew chapter 16, verse 24, then Jesus said to his disciples, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it. So it's so crazy because Jesus says, deny yourself. Not you do you. He says, deny yourself. Now, he's speaking to people who want to be his disciple. There's an important distinction to be made here where we can be in the business of not judging because Jesus doesn't call us to judge.
Yeah.
But there are appropriate times for us to help people and redirect people and encourage people. We call it relational equity.
Yeah.
That there would be a relational bridge built and strong enough to support hard truth.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, Barrick, you know I love you. And this one thing you're doing, saying, acting, whatever, I think you should reconsider it or reevaluate, change it. And Jesus is saying, deny yourself, but he's saying this to disciples. Now, I think people can come to saving faith, receive salvation, love Jesus, and only begin the process. Yeah. And actually, I think people can be saved and never be a disciple. And we can talk about that in another. Yeah. That's a whole nother thing.
That's a whole nother thing. We
haven't
said that in a while.
I know we haven't. That's a whole nother thing. So we'll talk about that eventually. But the idea is, Jesus says to disciples, deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. What does that mean? What does that look like? Last thoughts.
Yeah, it can mean a lot of different things. Yes. But it's just it's a thing that you ought to figure out in community with people that love you, because it's no fun for us all the time to discipline ourselves. That's the root of the word disciple, is discipline. Meaning that we do deny ourselves some things because in the long term we know it'll be better for us.
Yes.
It'll lead us closer to Jesus. In fact, one guy said that the way that we learn God's will for our lives is through discipline. It's the way that God speaks to us. So it's this very weird thing of just trying to figure that out, and it shouldn't be done alone at all.
Our last thing really as the encouragement is denying yourself sounds really difficult, and discipline sounds no fun at all.
Yep.
But the reality is it's the key to the life Jesus promises in John 10:10, the abundant life.
Yep.
Go find it. Talk more. We love you.
Bye.
See ya.